Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Do you ever get that feeling like your brain is just a million tabs open all at once? Everything's fighting for your attention?
Right.
Like that's kind of the feeling Chris Hayes is getting at in his book, The Siren's Call. It's nonfiction, by the way. And if you're into, really diving deep into like society and technology and just, I guess just like the human condition, then hit that like button, subscribe, because we do this all the time.
Yeah.
But today we're going to be talking about like how attention has become like the most valuable thing in the digital world, right?
Yeah.
Like the new gold rush.
It is.
You can find a link to the book down in the description if you want to check it out.
Yeah, it's not just a critique of like our phones. It's deeper than that. Like Hayes, he connects all these dots between history and economics and even evolution
Wow.
to like paint this picture of how we got here. You know what I mean? Like how we ended up like this. He calls it the attention age. Our focus is like the ultimate product.
It's like instead of panning for gold, companies are like panning for our attention.
Exactly.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
And he uses some pretty crazy examples too. Did you know, like, the average person spends more time playing Call of Duty than humans have even been on Earth?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. It really shows how much information is out there. Our brains are like flooded with it, and we've had to like evolve all these ways to filter it, what's important, what's not. It's crazy to think that like how we evolve, like how we raise kids, how we focus, it's all connected. Like humans giving birth to these tiny babies who need like years of care, that shaped how we pay attention.
Yeah, we're wired to focus on like what keeps us alive, or what connects us to other people. But then like boom, industrial revolution, and then later on mass media, suddenly like there's new kinds of boredom. Think about like working in a factory, just the same thing all day long, or like even just having free time. That created a demand for things to do, like to fill up that empty space in our minds.
And that's where like these attention merchants come in. Hayes uses the example of those early newspapers, like The Sun. Those guys were like pioneers,
Yeah.
They realized they could sell cheap papers and just rake it in with advertising. They figured out how to like make money off of their readers' attention. Like they struck gold.
It's a brilliant business model, you got to admit, but also kind of creepy. It's interesting how Hayes compares the Industrial Revolution, like measuring work and all that, with how much the attention industry wants to measure attention. Like think about Nielsen ratings.
Yeah.
It's all about measuring this thing we can't even see, attention.
And then the internet shows up and Google's like, the king, right. They changed how we find information, but they also got really good at like tracking every little click, every search.
Yeah. One of the things that really hit me was how Hayes talks about the social side of attention. We're social creatures. Like literally from when we're babies, we need attention from other people. It's like essential, That's why solitary confinement or being alone all the time is so bad for us. We're not getting that social attention.
Totally. And social media, it feeds into that, right?
Yeah.
All the likes and comments, it gives us that little hit of dopamine, but it also makes us like crave more and more.
Like we need that validation constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
And even those people who like thrive on attention, like celebrities or whatever, even they can get trapped. Like Hayes talks about himself, and even Elon Musk, they're super famous, but it comes with all this scrutiny and pressure. It's a double-edged sword. You get that rush of attention, but it can burn you out too.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's weird, right? Like we have more stuff to watch and read than ever before, but we can't focus on any of it. We get distracted so easily, and it's like our brains are, I don't know, just all over the place.
Yeah, it's like this attention paradox. Like, we want to be stimulated, but then we get all this information and we're just exhausted. Our focus is just like gone. Hayes says it's not just us, Like, we're not just bad at focusing. It's the whole system, the way our online world is built.
Yes, it's designed to be that way,
Yeah.
right? And he argues that this whole attention economy thing, it's changing everything, not just our habits, but like society and politics too.
Yeah.
And like he uses Trump as an example, which is really interesting.
Yeah, he says, like, Trump totally understood this fragmented media world where everyone's fighting for attention. He didn't care about policy, really. It was all about grabbing those headlines,
Yeah.
Staying in the news, keeping people talking, even if it was bad attention.
It's a good strategy, get people riled up, get those clicks, and it works. Especially now when outrage gets you more views. It's not about having a real conversation. It's about using attention as like a weapon. And it's not just in politics either.
Exactly. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And This ties into like Cory Doctorow's idea of enshittification, which Hayes talks about in the book. Basically, it's this idea that platforms, they care more about profit than like what's good for us.
Right.
So they create this environment where the craziest, most divisive stuff gets to the top.
It's like they're feeding us junk food.
It's
They know it's bad for us, but it's addictive.
Exactly. They want us hooked. And it has all these consequences, more anxiety, more depression. People don't trust each other or institutions anymore. And it's like we don't even agree on what's real anymore.
It's scary.
And think about conspiracy theories and all the misinformation online. When attention is everything, the truth doesn't matter as much. What matters is what goes viral. It's all about those eyeballs.
It's like clickbait, but worse. Like a crazy conspiracy theory, it's way more interesting than like a boring fact, right?
Yeah.
And these algorithms, they don't care if it's true. They just want you to keep clicking.
Yeah.
So it's like these false stories can just explode.
Yeah, and it's not just harmless fun. Like Hayes says, these conspiracy theories, they have consequences. People lose trust in the government. They get divided. There's violence.
And like QAnon or all that stuff about the elections, like these stories, they get traction because they play on our fears.
Yeah.
And they give us easy answers for things that are really complex.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the impact on our relationships. Like we're constantly being pulled for our attention. Our phones are always buzzing. It's like we're forgetting how to really connect with people.
It's true. Like how many times have you been hanging out with someone, but you're really just on your phone the whole time? It's like we're missing out on those moments that actually matter.
We are. And it's not just our personal lives either. Hayes says it affects like our whole sense of community. It's harder to care about other people, to work together. It's like we're all just in our little bubbles.
So like, what do we do about it?
So it's kind of overwhelming, right? It is. But Hayes does give us like some ideas, some hope.
Yeah.
He says we have to be more aware of where our attention is going. We need to find those things that actually make us feel good, that connect us. And we have to make those a priority.
Yeah. Like those attention farmers markets he talks about. Places where you can like disconnect from the digital world.
Right. Like libraries, nature, even just having a real conversation with someone. It's about like taking back our attention, giving it to things that matter.
You know what's crazy? Hayes connects this whole attention economy thing to like climate change.
Yeah.
It's like our attention spans are just too short now to deal with these big long-term problems.
Yeah, it's like think about carbon dioxide, right? Like it's the most dangerous thing on the planet, but you can't even see it. You can't smell it or taste it. It doesn't make for a good headline or like a viral TikTok. It's just this slow burn, happening over decades. It's hard to keep people focused on it.
Yeah, and the attention economy is all about what's happening right now, the big flashy stuff, not these long, slow problems. It makes it really hard to work together and like actually solve something like climate change.
And Hayes also talks about like the technical side of how our attention gets hijacked. It's not just like flashing lights and crazy videos. It's algorithms and data collection and all this targeted advertising. They're designed to keep us hooked. They can predict what we're going to click on and they use that to make money.
It's kind of creepy, right? Like we're playing this game and we don't even know the rules and they keep changing them on us.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what makes this whole attention economy thing so unsettling. We're not really in control.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that really got me was how Hayes connects this to like the rise of conspiracy theories. He says, when you're drowning in information and everyone wants your attention, the truth kind of gets lost. What matters is what gets people clicking, even if it's totally made up.
Right. It's like clickbait, but on a whole other level. Like a crazy conspiracy theory is just way more exciting than like a boring old fact. And these algorithms, they don't care if it's true or not. They just want to keep you engaged. So that's the stuff that spreads.
And it's not just like harmless fun either. Hayes says these conspiracy theories, they can really mess things up. People start distrusting the government, they fight with each other, and sometimes it even leads to violence.
Like with QAnon or like all that stuff about the election. Those stories, they took off because they played on people's fears and anxieties. They gave them a simple answer for things that are actually really complicated.
Exactly. And then there's like the impact on our relationships too. It's like with all these demands for our attention, all these distractions, we're forgetting how to just like be with each other. You know what I mean? We're trading real human connection for like a bunch of likes on Instagram.
It's so true. Like, how many times have you been hanging out with someone, but you're both just on your phones? It's like we're missing out on those real moments, the things that actually matter.
We are. And it's not just our personal lives either. Hayes says it affects like our sense of community, too. It's harder to care about other people, to work together. It's like we're all just in our little bubbles. So what do we do about it? It's kind of overwhelming, right?
It is, but Hayes, he does give us, like, some ideas, some
Yeah.
hope, you know? He
Yeah.
says we have to be more aware of where our attention is going. We have to find those things that actually make us feel good, that connect us to other people, and we have to prioritize those things.
Yeah, like those attention farmers markets he talks about, places where you can just like disconnect from the digital world.
Right, like libraries or being out in nature, or even just like having a real conversation with someone, you know? It's about taking back control of our attention and giving it to things that actually matter.
Yeah.
So this deep dive into Chris Hayes's The Siren's Call, it's been really interesting, right? We've talked about like the history of attention and how the attention economy works and all the technology behind it and like how all of that is changing our lives, our relationships, like everything.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about, for sure. And it's kind of scary, but it's also a wake-up call, you know?
It is like we got to start paying attention to where our attention is going.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be more intentional about it, and we have to fight for a digital world that's like actually good for us. So, what did you guys think of this deep dive? What surprised you? What made you think? Tell us in the comments.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into all sorts of cool stuff. We'll see you next time.